Okay, I'd like to start this week by talking about coordination, subordination, and parallelism. This is essentially the ways that we put together parts of sentences. When we're talking about coordination, essentially coordination means to put roughly equal pieces or parts together. So I'm taking two parts that are of the same length or the same type, and I'm going to put them together. We use coordinating conjunctions to do this. These are words like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. One way to remember the coordinating conjunctions is the use of a mnemonic device, a memory device. The first letter of each of those words, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, spells out fanboys. So I've got the little logo down here. I love the Backstreet Boys. Maybe a way of kind of remembering it, kind of a freakish, I don't know, I guess I shouldn't say anything about Backstreet Boys, but some sort of frightening, really into it kind of fan who's into a particular band. Kind of think of those fans having each of the words on their T-shirts, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Maybe they've got big placards in the rain and they're yelling, you know, "Marry me, Britney," or "Backstreet Boys Forever." So how do they work? Okay, so coordinating conjunctions can connect words. So for example, in a list, in a sentence like Jack and Jill went up the hill and fetched a pail of water, I have actually two lists here. I've got Jack and Jill. They're both nouns, the subjects of the sentence. I also have a list of verbs in that first sentence. Went up the hill and fetched a pail of water. So went and fetched are being connected by the word and. In the second example here, we went to the store and bought a gallon of milk. And is connecting just a list of verbs, went and bought. And it could connect more verbs. I could say I went to the store, comma, bought a gallon of milk, comma, and went home, in which case I'd have three verbs connected by and. It could connect phrases in a sentence. So for example, I like to drive my car and to hunt giant wildebeest. Here we have two infinitive phrases, to drive my car and to hunt giant wildebeest, and it's connected by the word and. In the second sentence, in pouring rain or in driving snow, the postal carrier will deliver your mail. Here you have the word or connecting two prepositional phrases. A phrase is any group of words that goes together but doesn't contain a subject and verb. A clause, on the other hand, does contain a subject and verb, and we're going to talk more about those as we progress through the term. So clauses can be connected. When we're talking about coordination, we're talking about connecting clauses that are each complete sentences. Each of them could be independent. So here we've got two independent clauses. We were hunting a wildebeest. That's a complete sentence all on its own. We've correctly connected it then to the second complete sentence. We had only brought our BB guns. And so we've connected it then by using a comma and the word but. On the second sentence here, she was angry at me, so she called me a nasty name. Each of those is a complete sentence, and it's connected by a comma and the word so. So that's coordination, putting together two things that are equal. Subordination, then, is to combine something that is whole with something that's less than whole, something that's complete with something that is less than complete. Even that word subordination, ordination means the ordering of things, and sub means less than or under. So subordination means putting together something that's complete with something that's less than or under. Okay, let's see here. There we go. One kind of subordination that we might have is the use of adverb clauses. These are pieces that show the how, when, where of the main action of the sentence. So we have our main sentence, and then an adverb clause will tell us how, when, or where that action happened. So an example of that When we came to the stop sign, we revved our engine. We revved our engine is the complete sentence. That's the actual action that's happening here in the sentence. But the when we came to the stop sign, that tells you when that action took place. It tells you the conditions under which. And so we're calling it an adverb clause because it functions, the whole thing functions the way an adverb would function in that sentence. Second sentence, I am sad because I forgot to feed my pet this month. It would be sad, right? The pet might struggle to live. I say that as I look over at my fish that probably needs tank change again. I am sad is the actual main sentence here. Even though it's the shortest part of the sentence, that's the main part of the sentence. That's the part that could stand on its own as a complete sentence. Because I forgot to feed my pet this month, those are the conditions under which I am sad. That tells you why I am sad. So it acts as an adverb for that sentence. The other kind of clauses that we can have that are subordinate, that are less than, are adjective clauses. These are pieces that are going to help us to describe a noun in the main sentence. So on this sentence, the woman who was in the car told me to give you this package. That clause there, the adjective clause, who was in the car, tells you something about the woman. It's just describing which woman we're talking about. At the top of Mount Mumu, where I first met my true love, I left a silver pail. Again, where I first met my true love is telling you something about Mount Mumu. It's acting to describe Mount Mumu. And one thing you'll notice with these, as with the adverb clauses, the main sentence, at the top of Mount Mumu I left a silver pail, the main sentence works even if I don't have that adjective or adverb clause. It'll still be a complete sentence. I'm not saying that these aren't important, it's just that they're not necessary to make it a complete sentence. It's additional information to the sentence. Obviously very good additional information, but additional information nonetheless. Now the rules with these adjective clauses, if that adjective clause is necessary for you to know who or what I'm talking about, if it's the first kind of specific information, we're not going to use any commas. So for example, on this sentence, the man who sneezed was my father. Who sneezed is an adjective clause for the man. I don't know which man we're talking about until I say who sneezed, so it's essential, no commas. In contrast, if I say Fred, who is the man that sneezed, is my father, Fred is already specific. It's already clear who I'm talking about. And so while that information might be important for us, while we might want to know that that's the man who sneezed, it's not essential for us to know who we're talking about, for us to specifically be able to point to one person. So who is the man that sneezed gets set off from the main sentence with commas. The third area I want to talk about when we're talking about connecting things is parallelism. And parallelism, that word, has the same meaning that it has in geometry. So in geometry, when we talk about parallel lines, for example, we're talking about kind of a sameness of distance between lines. With sentences, then, we're talking about the sameness of structure. So it might be that we have a list that comes in the same structure. We might have several sentences that are constructed in the same way. And it can be an effective technique to show that these pieces that we are putting in a parallel structure really all go together. So, for example, I like to swim, bike, and hike in the summer. That list of verbs is all in the same form. They're all kind of an extension of the word to. I like to swim, I like to bike, I like to hike. Same form of the verb. In the water and on the land. So here I've got a list of prepositional phrases. They match up. So in the water, on the land. And so I get a sense of those two pieces going together. We see many examples of waterfowl. Here we have a list of sentences that we don't do this very often in writing. We do it much more frequently in speeches, but you can use it in writing, and it can be an effective technique to give kind of some power and weight to what you're talking about. I like to go to the mall. I like to go to the movies. I like to have fun. You'll notice that by the time I get to have fun, it's clear that all three of those sentences go together, and so mall and movies must be part of that same idea of having fun. The thing we always want to watch out for with parallelism is when we have faulty parallelism. And all that means is that we've got several pieces that are going together and one or more that don't go with that list. It reminds me a lot of the old Sesame Street thing where they have a split screen on the screen, and they'd have, say, 3 kids eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches and 1 kid playing the hula hoop, and they'd sing their little Sesame Street song. You know, one of these kids is not like the other, one of these kids is not like the rest, one of these kids is doing his own thing. And so then the kids would go over there and they'd beat on the kid that's doing her own thing with the hula hoop. It was just terrible. There'd be blood all over the screen, and they'd say, you know, everybody has to conform. Everybody must eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I may have watched a different Sesame Street than everybody else. So here we've got I like to swim, bike, and running. So swim and bike are obviously in the same form, and running just doesn't feel like it fits this list. So what we'd want to do is say I like to swim, bike, and run. Run would make more sense here. I like to go swimming, I like to go biking, I like to run. Again, here we've got ing verbs in the first 2 sentences, and so we'd probably want to have an ing verb with the to go form in the last one. So I like to go swimming, I like to go biking, I like to go running. Or we can make them all match the to run form. So I like to swim, I like to bike, I like to run. So the idea with parallelism, again, is that every part that we're saying is going together, is parallel, should have the same form, the same structure. The idea then is that you can use these, coordination, subordination, and parallelism. You can use these when you have disparate sentences, several sentences, that really maybe should go together. So you can use one of these techniques to start putting things together. If I have a sentence that says Jane likes sushi, and then I have the second sentence that says Jane likes to eat burgers, it might make sense to just coordinate those and say Jane likes sushi and burgers. That might be a more effective way of saying that.